A case of the blues has never looked so good. Today's color code is peculiarly number 30. We got the code, now let's get to cracking. Thank you to Mighty Boards for helping us with today's video. I'll definitely have more information about them a bit further in. For those of you watching that are used to seeing color codes like CC40 or SW yada yada yada, this one may seem a little strange. And that's because it's by the company Farrow and Ball, who have a relatively slim collection of colors compared to other paint companies. The 30th color by them is called Hague Blue, and just like the rest of the colors it sits alongside, it's actually a pre-mixed color. All of the Farrow and Ball paint colors are put together in the factory, so once you grab them off the shelf in the store, all it needs is a quick shake and it's good to go. And a color as dark as Hague Blue requires a good shake or two. Because even though it's not really advertised on the Farrow and Ball website, many experts believe that its LRV, or light reflectance value, is right around 7. And that puts it in the very dark category of colors. It's an interesting take on blue because it seems to be fairly navy in nature when you first look at it, but it technically possesses a very slight green undertone, which can have a pleasant reaction to all sorts of lighting. Even if your lighting is a bit more cool leaning, that touch of warmth in the paint color will simply be neutralized. And then if it's warmer yellow lighting, that green can be accentuated even further, which can give it a vibrant pop of teal. No one's gonna call this color neutral by any means, mainly due to how dark it is. This isn't a color that you're going to throw in your main hallway, although I think it would be pretty awesome if you had the gall to do that. But that being said, when you start comparing this color to other more clearly saturated blues out there, this is where Hague Blue can start to look like a blue shade that is also toned down with some gray elements, and that ends up giving it a slightly more sleek, subtle approach to deep blue. As a whole, the color's calling card is that little touch of green while still preserving its true blue nature. When you look at it on the walls, it's not going to feel teal at all, but it can easily play within the teal color palettes and any warm tones as well as cool ones. Speaking of cool and warm, what are some color pairings that you can use alongside Hague Blue? Farrow and Ball does a pretty good job at providing you with some color schemes on their website, obviously sticking to other Farrow and Ball colors, but the ones they recommend tend to be on the cool side, and I want to venture outside of those cooler tones that they recommend and get a little contrarian. So while Skylight and Borrowed Light would look fine with Hague Blue, I'm a little more interested in a color like Farrow's Cream as a paired color. This is a color that's extremely tied to the history behind the company, which is a big reason why I chose it at first. It's meant to replicate the same sorts of colors that you might have seen used centuries ago. And while some people might label that as being the most dated color you could possibly go for, I really enjoy its purity and simplicity as a color. It apparently doesn't have any black pigment inside, and that helps preserve its rich, creamy nature. And paired with Hague Blue, it's such a timeless, aesthetically pleasing pair that I don't think I'll ever get bored of. If you want to keep your color palette feeling fresh and updated, then why not opt for one of the newer Farrow and Ball colors in Palm? Number CC4 from the California collection, this is a lighter sage green that will do a great job at introducing some freshness to the space. And like we mentioned earlier, Hague Blue does have that subtle green touch, which plays really nicely with other more prominent greens of all shades. It's a much lighter color in comparison, which means you can feel free to use it a bit more freely. However, I would still be aware that it's more of a true mid-tone and has an LRV a bit lower than some of those all over the house main colors I keep talking about. What about trim colors? Well, this is a tricky question because you truly have a lot of options to go with. Hague Blue isn't a lighter color that might be too similar to some of your favorite off-whites, and that's because it's already such a dark wall color. You also have some flexibility in the color temperature department because although it's objectively a cooler color, it has that warm green element that can work together really nicely with some creamier whites. You can even opt for Farrow and Ball's recommended complementary white in Old White. But to me, there is a more obvious choice that I would see myself using way more often. My favorite trim color to go alongside Hague Blue is Hague Blue. My reasoning behind it is you're already introducing a pretty bold statement color on the walls, so it can start to look a little overdone when you further accentuate those blue wall panels with bright white trim outlining everything. It's completely dependent on the design you're going for, but more often than not, I'll continue the same color up the walls and onto the trim and crown molding even, if there is any, and down to the baseboards as well. The overall look will appear a bit more under control, and your woodwork will look a little more subtle and incorporated into your design rather than being overly accentuated. Just please be aware that Farrow & Ball has products that are intended for walls and others that are intended for woodwork, so I would not recommend using the same paint on both surfaces. Before I give you my take on where I would use Hague Blue, I want to give you a pro tip on testing. And to do that, I want to bring Mighty Boards to your attention. If you know Farrow & Ball, you know that their products are up there in price, so you want to make sure that you pick the right color before you splurge on even a gallon or two. The good news is Farrow & Ball sells testers, and the company Mighty Boards makes these awesome flexible paintable boards that you can use with your tester paint and then get a wonderful representation of not only Hague Blue the color, but also the paint itself, rather than just a printed card. And I bring this up because there have been some complaints that some of the newer Farrow & Ball colors, like the California collection, just come in sheets of paper. Make sure that when you're getting a paint tester, it's actual paint. And if you're getting that, then a Mighty Board is an awesome pairing for it. You can check out the website down below if you want some more information. So, Hague Blue. What's it all about? How are you supposed to use this color? Navy blue in general is a fantastic option for a fairly unobtrusive approach to deep dark colors. With Hague Blue specifically, it's that touch of green that adds to its overall versatility in my mind, and is really a phenomenal choice for a statement room or accent piece, but also a pretty interesting consideration as a trim color, especially if you're already using it on the surrounding walls. A special shout out to Hague Blue in full gloss. That sheen level takes the color to another level. We recently talked about Farrow & Ball as a company, including the different products within the line. So if you want more information on this pretty interesting company, you can check out our video right here. Thanks again to Mighty Boards, thanks to all of you for keeping us going, and also thank you to the pronunciation police. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce Hague, right?